Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 138. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the comics forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. If I'm not juicy, I don't know what is. So says the sensei of the What Not Segulin and Daily Planet Story of the Year. On this episode, we're going to be chatting about Terror Titans #1, Unknown Soldier #1, and the Superman New Krypton kickoff. We're going to be talking about the Jimmy Olsen special, we're going to be talking about the new Krypton special, and Superman #681. So we got a pretty packed episode. This one's going to be a little bit lighter in the sense that I love that 2 hours is a little bit lighter, but the reason why is I'm in the middle of report cards and conferences right now for my students. We have an interview that we recorded with Freddie E. Williams II, and anytime we do creator interviews, they take me a little longer to edit together, because I like to clean them up, and we offer creators the opportunities to kind of restate things and all that to make sure it's a nice polished segment that they're proud of at the end. So because of that, we are going to be airing that next week for sure. That it's already been recorded. It's a great segment, so that's something you can look forward to for next week. And we'll have more on that episode to be announced. Take a look at the forum and the website for more details. We are proud to continue supporting the Hero Initiative. Hero creates a financial safety net for yesterday's creators who need emergency medical aid, financial support for the essentials of life, and an avenue back into paying work. It's a chance for all of us to give something back to the people who have given us so much enjoyment. For more information, visit www.heroinitiative.org or call 310-909-7809. We've got a handy-dandy link right on the front page of RagingBullets.com, so continue to support them because it's a wonderful, wonderful program. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com, where you can pick up Batman and the Outsiders Special #1 at a special discount. This is written by Peter J. Tomasi, art and cover by Adam Kubert and John Dell. And in the wake of Batman R.I.P. and DC Universe Last Will and Testament, this special features a brand new era for Batman and the Outsiders, and Final Crisis has changed its universe forever, and though Batman may be gone, his legacy must endure. Forces are set in motion that give rise to a new team, ready to combat the secrets of evil that the Outsiders were truly formed for all those years ago. Is Geoforce the best leader, or will Black Lightning step up to the plate? Plus, the introduction of a never-before-seen character important to the Batman mythos. This one I'm totally on board because of Peter J. Tomasi, and that to me is anything Peter Tomasi's doing right now seems to be gold to me. I'm loving his work on Nightwing, which is a particular favorite of mine. Green Lantern Corps is just stellar. Anything this guy seems to touch just seems to be wonderful. It's regularly $3.99, 50% off, only $1.99. Our listeners on the forum and through emails have been asking, when is Final Crisis Superman Beyond #2 coming out? And it's coming out alongside Final Crisis #7, so it's solicited this month. Written by Grant Morrison, art by Doug Mahnke and Christian Alme, covers by J.H. Williams III and Doug Mahnke. The epic voyage beyond reality concludes in this heart-stopping finale as the multiverse-spanning quest for the elixir of the supergods reaches its end on the shores of a battlefield beyond imagination. And that is regularly $4.50, 40% off, only $2.70. Whatever your shipping preferences, whatever your bag and boarding preferences, DCBService.com accommodates your collecting needs. Don't forget our in-stock trades book of the month is, as chosen by Simulated Stereo, Doom Patrol Volume 2, The Painting That Ate Paris, trade paperback. Written by Grant Morrison, art by Richard Case and John Nyberg, with a cover by Brian Boland. The long-awaited second collection from superstar writer Grant Morrison's groundbreaking run on Doom Patrol. This new trade paperback reprints issues 26 to 34, and this collection includes The Rise of the Legendary Brotherhood of Dada, the only team of super foes strange enough to rival the Doom Patrol itself, as well as The Menace of the D-Creator, and the return of Mashur Mala, and the Brain from the original Brotherhood of Evil. Regularly $19.95, InStockTrades.com price, 47% off for us, $10.57. So, InStockTrades.com remains your source for your collected edition needs. Thank you for supporting us, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Want to remind everyone to please check out RagingBullets.com. Show news updates, listener-generated content. We've got a wonderful blog called Life in the Gutter and Bulleteer Rants. We got Mart's blog up there. We're connected right to our listener rants section, which is on the forum. So for those of you that maybe don't want to sign up for the forum, but want to check out what listeners are ranting about and raving, what books they're enjoying, what things they have questions about, what things are bothering them, this is a rant thread that listeners really are actively participating on every week and just getting their thoughts out there. So you can click on this right from our webpage. You don't need to join into the forum, but you can read, enjoy, see our listeners' thoughts. So I've got that link to that right up there as well. And if you have any content or anything, email, audio comments for the show, send them to ragingbullets@gmail.com. We love having you a part of the show. I want to remind everyone about our voicemail line. It's 440-388-4434. That's 1-440-388-4434. We will definitely have some voicemails on our next episode. The only reason why they weren't on this week are because Jim and myself are kind of scrambling to get this episode together, but we will definitely have them on next week. I'm excited to hear some more of your thoughts, so please go ahead and get them in. Also, if you want to get it through Skype, our user ID is Dr. Norge, DRNORGE, so definitely go through Skype that way, and you can get that from anywhere around the world, so we'd love to have you part of that segment, so thanks so much. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot line, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
And our next review will be Terror Titans #1. The writer is Sean McKeever. Pencils by Joe Bennett. Inks by Jack Jadeson. Colors, Rod Reese. Letterer, Travis Lanham. Assistant editor, Rex Ogle. And editors, Elizabeth Gerlin and Dan DiDio. Dude, okay, come on. This was a cool thing. I was looking forward to it, and it definitely did not, disappoint. I really enjoyed what I read, and I was like, it's at the end of this issue, I was like, okay, I want issue 2 now, please. It was one of those, it was a beautiful build through, but it was funny because I first read it, I was like, yeah, that's a great story. When I read it through the second time, I picked up other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I picked up something, and I saw the story as something different. When I first read it through, I saw it as the Rose story. After reading it the second time through, I saw it as the Terror Titans story. For a lot of the same reasons I'm digging Secret Six is why I dig this the second time through. It gives us the villain side of the story. And I was like, oh man, this is cool. This is a nice, really cool villains unit. This, it's not just about Rose. It is about them, how their dynamics, how they do things, and how they think of it. And, just and also talking about artwork. This was some beautiful artwork.
Oh, I love since Hawkman. I love Joe Bennett. So I mean, this was really, really good artwork. I agree.
Yeah, I ate it up, man. I ate it up from the beginning to the end, and hoorah! And speaking of eating it from the beginning to end, the opening with
wait, can I say one thing first? From Mid-Ohio, I couldn't wait to go up and get something signed from Sean McKeever, specifically the Wonder Dog issue.
Yeah.
I had no doubt of what I wanted to get signed from him, but the first thing I said to him when I got up there, I'm like, you are a bad, bad man. Yeah. He's like, me? What did I do? And I'm like, for what you did to Wonder Dog. And I said, what are you going to do to Gleek? And he's like, what am I not going to do to Gleek? But he's a very funny guy. Yeah. And it was nice to see him over there. This run is getting up there with the Johns run with me.
Yes.
It started off at first, that Future arc I enjoyed, but it was really after that Future arc, the Future Titans arc, that I really started getting into what Sean McKeever's doing. His second arc. So I really would say to people, if the first arc didn't grab you of his run, I enjoyed it. So I'm not like knocking the first arc, but it really was his second arc where he really seemed to have gotten a flavor for what he wanted to do with Titans and really seemed to kind of unleash.
Yeah.
And I really started having some fun with his run.
Well, and dude, that's why I put him in my Hall of Fame, just because it.
Now I got a question about this Watish Hall of Fame of yours.
You didn't do the symbol, by the way.
I'm not doing the symbol. I never do the symbol.
Well, okay, I figured I'd try.
You do that? No,
but
it's not going to happen.
Your question.
Okay,
and
now here's the whole thing. Understanding that on our episodes we do have new listeners, probably every single show. How are they going to know what books are in your Watish Hall of Fame? Like when you go to do your top 5, how are they going to know that like you're not mentioning Titans because it's in your Watish Hall of Fame? How would they know that?
Do you honestly think that I'm not going to say every single time all the members of the Hall of Fame?
Well, I didn't know. I was asking.
Come on.
I wanted some clarification. Like, is that how insane this is going to be?
Of course.
Okay. So then are you going to say a little bit something about the book, like why it's in there and what the issue was like that month? Or are you just going to say they're in the Hall of Fame and I'm not going to say anything about it?
Well, now I'll explain what the Hall of Fame is to the point where everybody will be so sick of it saying, quit talking about the stupid Hall of Fame. But I'm going to then, probably just say who's in the Hall of Fame,
See,
why they're in
I got to admit, I'm already sick of it. but
I know,
yet
it's
I'm
fun.
drawn to it like a moth to flame.
Yeah.
So I say that, and yet I can't help thinking about it. It really does. It's something like when we weren't. I kid you not. Since you first mentioned it till now, that question's been burning in my head. So it really is something where I don't know if it's my own psycho. So I'm sick of it, but I'm not. So it's one of those. It's one of those weird things that you do that just works for you.
I know.
And it does. I'm not even mocking you.
I know.
I'm really not.
Yeah.
Because it's a bizarre. Like, I'm not telling you not to do it. I just wanted some clarification. So that was. Otherwise, I would say, dude, that's stupid. Don't do it. I wouldn't waste this time. It's genuinely. I'm like curious as to how your mind works because it's just.
It's scary once just to get in there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because I feel like Batman does in R.I.P. right now. I'm trying to understand you. I've created a different personality to try to understand you.
You're the Norwich of Zenana.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
And please, let that be a Where's Whatnot, the Norwich of Zenana.
Next
please.
episode, I'm going to wear a multicolored outfit specifically for the purpose to understand, because I burnt out my brain trying to understand your Watish Hall of Fame. So that's where we're at. I'm sorry. Let's
cool. That had more. That was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, no, the Watish Hall of Fame, though, the reason why I even brought it up is because as part of our top bullets, you put that in your Hall of Fame and said, I'm not going to put that in my top 5 anymore. So I was curious, like Teen Titans. I'm like, I know how much you love the Titans. So I was wondering, I'm like, how are you not going to talk about Titans during your top 5? I didn't understand that. So you are going to refer to them. Okay. Yeah, fine. Let's move on to Terror Titans.
Okay. Let's move. And right from the opening sequence, you know things are just going to get very interesting. You have a group of young superheroes all meeting in a dark and dreary place. Oh, yeah, this isn't going to go well for them, and we don't have to wait long. But before we get to the cool fight sequences, we do have this neat meeting of these young heroes, and they're all talking about this Dark Side Club. And it's one of those things where they don't know all the information. It's, rumors, hearsay, mystery. Oh, no, it's this. Oh, no, it's this. Oh, no, it's this. And it's kind of a cool element behind the Dark Side Club that no one really knows what it is. They know they're going after kids, but not why.
And I like how they're pulling a lot of newer young heroes, fairly new. Like the Aqua Girl was in the most recent Aquaman series. Terra is coming up in the brand new Terra series. Zatara, Offspring, who we've seen before. Molecule is new. I don't think I've ever seen Molecule.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. Is there ever...
That Star Spangled Kid, I was like, wait, but he's dead. So this is a new Star Spangled Kid that was created for this. Which is interesting that they've got basically red shirts painted on them because of that. But but what worked for me here in a defense of this, where I really liked it, was the fact that the Dark Side Club was starting with lesser known heroes, lesser known, even villains. They were pulling lesser known characters into their group for this purpose so they wouldn't generate notice.
Right.
You're not going to start with your high-priority, top-tiered characters. You're going to start with your lower ones, build your army, then they started targeting your Titans and things like that. So that's why these people would be meeting and saying, hey, wait a minute, people who are working on their own are kind of missing. Let's kind of group together and start trying to figure out what's going on. That worked for me.
Well, but the thing is, they didn't actually set up the meeting.
No.
They all thought everybody that Zatara and all them called them together, like, we didn't do this, you guys did.
But
it was
that's
that
what I'm saying,
yeah.
though. But there's a willingness to meet, is what
right.
I'm trying to say, because of the fact that they're all scared, and this would set them up for it. And I should clarify that, but that's the point that I'm making, is that makes sense. I would too. Wait, tell me, if you and I were sitting here right now, and all of a sudden podcasters were disappearing and being targeted and all that stuff, tell me we wouldn't be get on the phone, hey, dude, we got to meet and band together or something like that, get decoder rings and all that nonsense and make sure, none of us are taken anymore.
It's time to lock and load.
Yeah. I mean, that's what would be, seriously, this totally worked for me on that level.
Now, and it's funny because as soon as they realize what's going on, bam, that's when the Terror Titans attack. And I really liked this fight sequences. One, it started off the heroes are kicking butt, yeah, we're doing this. But we see an evolution of the Terror Titans. They're no longer, the Royal Flush Gang. They're no longer these people that you can just blow over without any trouble. They reacted, they acted as a team, they fought back, and they took down these heroes. And I loved seeing a team dynamic, a working together, a cooperation. Hey, hit him, you move here. Copperhead, are you still in the fight? Go, bam, bam.
Of course, you got to remember one other thing too, though. In fairness, they're going up against a group of people that aren't a team.
Right.
which is a big difference between going up against the Titans. So where it worked for me as well, they've been a team longer than obviously this group has, but conversely, if you're going up against the Titans, they were more of an expert of working together at the point of when they went up against this team.
Yeah, and yeah.
So that's the difference here is...
Yeah, they're no longer the Royal Flush Gang, but they're not Secret Six yet.
No.
They're far from that level, and you even see that the fact that they struggled with these people who have never fought together, but they are able to work together. And I like that we have a villain team because we see that with the Rogues working together. These guys aren't on the level of the Rogues yet either, but they have the potential to be there. They have the potential to actually turn into this fighting unit that could take down the Titans, that could take down, maybe even give the JLA a little run for their money, maybe give some other heroes run for their money. Except there is a villain problem, which we will see later on, which I love the fact they address the classic villain problem.
Right, and this is what ends up happening, and why you see so few villain teams reach rogue status.
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked how they dealt with Molecule. It was one of those Sean McKeever is a bad man in a wonderful, wonderful way. As they're like, hey, wait, we're missing one. Where is he? Oh, here he is. Sunk, cut him in half. And it's not even... Oh, yeah, like he would have been worth anything in the arena. Just completely disregard for human life and just the sanctity of life, because these are villains. These are nasty people who have no problem killing. And you see that this isn't a hero team. This is where it's that other side of it. It's the other side of the story.
Equally interesting to me, though, is this new Star Spangled Kid's reaction, where he's yelling, "No, murderers!" But where that really worked for me is he's an old JSA, character. This is somebody he's looking at and went, wow, Star Spangled Kid, actually part of Seven Soldiers, and I mean he's got a rich history, the Star Spangled Kid. You're looking at a classic Infinity Inc. hero, everything. So you're looking at this hero, and this is your idol, from the glory days when everything was a little bit brighter, a little bit nicer. And one of your early missions, maybe your first, I don't know how long this guy's been in action. Obviously he's a very new hero. You see a little tiny guy get chopped in half.
Yeah.
That's going to be a little distressing.
Yeah. And he's quickly silenced with a thunk, slammed up against the ground. I was like, oh, it was just the vicious nature of it, kind of just... It's that sickness that we enjoy so much in Secret Six. It's that same we see the evil side of it, and we get to in a way enjoy it when we shouldn't be cheering that the little dude got cut in half. I shouldn't have cheered when Black Adam ripped some dude in half or ripped somebody's arm off, but I did. It's that sick nature in me, and that's the thing I liked about this comic, and it was something that I really caught more the second time through. That's why this is definitely another one of those multiple read-throughs. Do yourself a favor. Just sit back down and read it and appreciate it for the great villain story that it is.
And I liked here, when you see the Star Spangled Kid being broken down, I liked that they used a newer, younger, a new version of Star Spangled Kid without the experience. Because you showed how somebody without that experience, without that training, without the experience of winning and victory and having that kind of confidence... through so many deep, dark battles, would break so much easier.
Yeah.
And we see him here, just the tears in his eyes, being told to let it go. This is not what he signed on for. He was, he had an idol who was the Star Spangled Kid during a bright and happy time. And now...
And he's going to be the next Star Spangled Kid.
Right.
And
as heroes, tell me, if we were going to don costumes and outfits, we'd have a different... I wouldn't expect to be going through this. No. I'd be like, I want to be, signing, autographs and kissing babies, that type of stuff like that. That's what you want when you're a hero. It's like you're Apollo, like you want the Superman experience.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you were going through that, you would just become Norge of Zen-and-Ah, and you'd be fine.
That's true, because I'd have my other personality because of your Watish nonsense. Right. Yeah. But that's the problem with your. And I liked it. That's why this worked for me on so many levels, because it is a brighter hero here that you're seeing going through this. And he was broken very quick.
Yeah, and we see him not only break, but he starts fighting fever, and he's going back and forth. And the cool thing about that was we had this great fight sequence where we're seeing them fever, but we're seeing the Clockwork King talking about what he's doing there. And we don't know this at first, but we eventually learned that he's talking to the Rose through this process, and he's basically giving Rose the sales pitch as to why she definitely needs to sign on with him. But it was just a great usage of the kind of like the split panel where you see the fight sequence going on, but you see the Clock King's head, and you see that going on, and you can tell, okay, is he telling us, or then you see Rose, oh, okay, yeah, this is the whole pitch.
What I love here, too, is he's also revealing that I was never really with Darkseid. I was waiting for my moment, and that's Darkseid had this problem for years with his advisors.
Yeah.
A lot of his characters that went along, Desaad turned on him. They all bided their time looking for opportunities to be the one that would take over. That's what Clockwork King was looking for here. All right, I'm going to side with this guy. I'm looking for an opportunity here. This is my chance to take power. So he was looking for that with the Darkseid Club. And he saw this as an opportunity for himself to say, hey, I'll bide my time. I'll get some power working for this guy. But when the time's right, I'll take all this for me if possible. And if not, I'm still going to gain power.
Yeah, it's a great plan on his part, and it shows that the Clock King is, he is the opportunist, but he's also strategist. And it's, he thinks linear. He doesn't think now in the moment. He thinks now, future, past, present, all of these things together.
Well, you're right, though. He's more thinking future, though. He's thinking a few steps ahead.
Yeah, and
he's always
it makes sense
ahead.
To who he is that he would think like that. Now, they talk about Darkseid being dead. I took it when Darkseid went into Turpin's body.
Right.
Okay.
Because remember, his boss Darkseid's body was found. And
right.
We've seen since then that there's another boss now running this.
Right. Yeah, we learn, it's Steppenwolf. We learn later. But now, Steppenwolf is acting like Darkseid's dead. Is that just a cover, or does Steppenwolf not know? Because obviously, Clock King doesn't know that Darkseid's not really dead. But does Steppenwolf not know?
I would guess and this is speculation, I would guess that Steppenwolf knows, but he's keeping it because of the fact that they're going to be doing this whole anti-life equation thing.
Right.
He's keeping close to the cuff to let because it's Darkseid's bigger plan.
Right. This was just a little...
Nothing
to him, and maybe a distraction to the heroes, if anything.
Right.
So this is I took it that as well. So Darkseid knows what he's doing, and he's letting him get away with it because
this is drawing the attention away from his real plan.
Right. I liked when we see Rose just listening to the pitch. Now, when I first started reading this, I had no doubt. I had slight doubt, but I really didn't have a lot of doubt that she was actually into his plan. I'm like, okay, she's there to take them down. And later on in the book, we see a couple sequences that prove it to me that she's there to take him down. But I like how she handled it. Because even, Clock King mentions, maybe you're just here to take me out, to take me down. She's like, come on. Well, that'd be too obvious. Why would I even do that? I'm not with them. I'm on my own. I am a killer. This is who I am. But I'm not your puppet.
Except
don't try to control me.
Here's how I'm taking this. I think she's been told this by everyone. When she left Titan's Tower, she left very dejected because she thought she was changing, and she expected them to see it. When she left Titan's Tower, they were all like, this is who she is, you can't be trusted, that type of thing. She was being told that by the people who she most looked up to and most wanted to say, hey, you're doing the right thing, you're one of us, you belong. She was told basically she didn't belong. So right now, I agree with what you're saying to a certain extent, but what I'm saying is I don't think she's 100% sure right now where she lies. I think she's realizing very quickly that she can't be this. And I think this is about our journeying with Rose, as Rose is discovering, in fact, that she has changed, that she's going to gain some conviction out of this on a level that perhaps we haven't even seen from her yet. This journey will bring her back to the Titans and to her own realization of like, hey, this is who I am, look what I did, here you go.
See, I took it, and we're going to agree to disagree on this one, that when she left the Titans, she left with the mindset saying, she overheard the Robin and Cassie conversation where, Cassie's saying, hey, we got to kick her out, and Robin's like, there's got to be consequences. But Robin never said kick her out. I don't think Robin was going to kick her out. I think Robin was going to suspend her or something. She overheard that.
Right.
And she misunderstood that. So I think when she left...
If she misunderstood that, she knows. Okay, go ahead.
I think when she left, she was of the mindset, you're wrong, Robin. You're wrong, Cassie. I am going to show you. I'm going to prove to you I'm one of the good guys. I'm going to take out the Terror Titans. And I'm going to do this on my own, and I'm going to show you I can do this, that I am a hero. I think the sole reason she is there is to take them down and to prove to the Titans that she's one of the good guys. I don't think we're going to see her go on a journey to discover she's one of the good guys. She already knows she's a good guy. She saw what they did to Eddie. And she's like, I'm taking these guys down. They're dead. That's it. I'm breaking them
So you're
down.
thinking this is a personal revenge.
I think this is personal for her, and not only personal, but to prove to the Titans she belongs.
Well, not only what they did to him, what they did to him.
Yeah.
And her. I mean, both of them.
I think I think she's already made the moral decision that she's going to be a hero.
I can see that too.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see.
Yeah, but I do like how she plays it, though. Especially where she's saying, I'm not going to be your puppet. Because that also is a great trap for her. Would be a great trap for the king. Think about it. If she would have been all embracing everything he's got, yeah, you're my buddy, he would know immediately that it's a trap. She's sitting there, no, I'm here because I want to be here, but don't think, you snap your fingers, you're going to say jump, I'm going to say how high. But other cool stuff was when we saw King just recognize there's more, that he can offer her, especially when he gave her that a shot of adrenaline. And it, kicked her psychic abilities up, and she could predict the end of the fight. Once again, it's more of, he's saying, see what I can offer you. I can give you something more than they can. Not forget the whole family thing. I'm going to give you power. I'm going to give you what you desire.
Why do you think he's doing this?
What? For his own gains.
What does he want from her, do you think?
I think he wants
her to be the new leader?
Not a new leader, but he probably...
Or do you think he's interested in her in a way?
No. I think he's interested in what she can give the team, because he makes her the trainer of the team. And that is a good, she would be a good trainer for the team. I don't think he's going to offer her the leadership spot. We see that he's already had Dreadbolt be the leader. And I think he's comfortable with Dreadbolt in that position if Dreadbolt can step up. But I think he sees her more as the control. If somebody messes up, he sees Rose as the person that will take them down. If, Rose is the enforcer. Rose is his fear.
Except as a precog, wouldn't he know already?
Remember, he only sees, it was like 3.5 seconds in the future.
Okay, but if you're saying that she left the Titans knowing that she was turning on him already,
right?
That's already happened then. Why wouldn't he know that?
But he can only see, he can't read minds. He can only see what's going to happen 3 seconds in the future. Right. So when she actually goes to betray him, she'll see that coming.
In the future that, hey, she's here and she's joining me for the purpose of
he will only see that she shows up. He won't see what she's thinking. He won't see her. That would be psychic. That's not psychic. He sees the future. So he sees an image of her showing up. He sees an image of her journeying to find him.
Predict her moves and
but she can't see why her motivation. Maybe he even saw what Robin and Cassie said and saw why she left. Right. That would be great motivation for him, saying, see, she just heard they don't want her. Oh, yeah, this is it. This is my opening. All right. But he can't see inside her head. He can't see her resolve. Now, the scene that I really digged, especially the second time through, was when the Terror Titans are all together and they're discussing it. This is one of those things where I really saw a villain group, that whole, villain group dynamics. You see the difference between the heroes and the villains in this. This is something we see in Secret Six, and we see in this one, we see with the Rogue stuff. They have their own motivation, and it's the chain of command is based on power. And the leadership needs to maintain a level of threat to control the team, not to be the person everyone leads to, not to be the inspirer. They have to be afraid of the person a little bit, and they start questioning Dreadbolt, because they're like, hey, how many people have you killed, Dreadbolt? Huh? What about you? Why, I didn't see you going around killing a molecule in that fight. What's going on here? And you can see that leadership start to wane because they're questioning whether he's there. Why is he there? You're just here on your dad's name. You're a legacy, yeah, ooh, but you haven't stepped up. You haven't done your thing. What's going on there? And it was just cool just seeing these villains discuss this. And I don't know about you, but I really, like the whole legacy side of this, because we have multiple legacy villains. Even Rose is a legacy villain, where her father is Deathstroke, and we see Dreadbolt, his father was Dreadbolt, and all the other, they have these other, connections to a previous generation of them. Now, part of that, I think, is because the Clock King, because he's so time fixated, but I think there's something else beyond that, and I'm not sure what the thing beyond that is.
Except, though, when they're talking, isn't there a discussion? Like, isn't Clock King just telling them that they're
Well, he's telling them there is a connection. Now, is there really? We know there is with Dreadbolt. We know there is with Rose.
Look at right
Disruptor.
Here. Because my dad's the original Disruptor, not that I ever knew him or anything. All of these things, they aren't really the descendants. They aren't legacy. They aren't. If you read back through here, none of these are legacy. They were told they were legacy by Clock King.
Right.
None of them ever knew their family or anything like that. He told them that. He's playing them.
Well, I think Dreadbolt knew he was the son of.
No, but that what you see right here, no. I mean, when you're looking right here, it's funny. He's told them all what they wanted to hear. Like Copperhead. Everything that they've heard, they're all discovering here through their discussion. Right before Rose come in, they're all discovering here from their discussion that their legacy has been a setup by Clock King.
See, I don't know if it all has been a setup. Yes, he's the one who maybe told them, but I took it that Dreadbolt knew his father was the original Dreadbolt. Because later on, when King and him have a discussion, and he's telling him, hey, good news, bad news. Good news is your father's back from the prison planet. Bad news is you're really not controlling the team that well. They don't fear you. You need to make them fear you.
But where does it say his father? It says, I understand your father returned from that extrasolar exile he was forced into. He's saying he's back, ? What if... See, and I think this is a major mind mess up from him. I'm going to disagree with you immensely on this. Clockwork King's telling him to go kill his dad. His dad's not who he's saying he is. He's telling him a big lie right here. He's going to go have him kill his father, and his father isn't the person that he's saying that he is. Clockwork King is saying that he was in that exile.
Right,
this guy has no clue. He's back? ? Clockwork King told him all this stuff.
See, I took it as he's back as I knew my dad was gone. He's back.
Right.
I didn't know he was back.
How does he know his dad was gone? Because Clock King told him he was in this exile. He never knew his dad. All of these guys are orphans. They never knew their father. That's their legacy. He never. Yeah. He's just like the other ones in the other room. If you go back, I'm just saying, if you take a look at the whole rest of the team, go look at this page where it says elsewhere, and they're all going through here. Every one of them has been told their story from Clock King. None of them actually met these parents that are quote unquote their legacy. He set them all up, saying, "Oh yeah, this is who your dad was." None of these guys the parents were villains. They were told their parents were villains.
Okay.
He set this up because he's manipulating them. He's a puppet master.
Oh, that's nice. Hey, you know what?
And the only thing that stopped their conversation from realizing in here
was Rose showing up.
Rose's appearance.
Yeah.
That's they're revealing it. He's in the same position they're in, because if you look over at this page, he finds out right here, wait, he's back? This story he heard, the only way he heard, and I'm entirely convinced, the only way he heard this story about his dad is because of Clock King telling him this story about his dad. Now all of a sudden he's hearing that his dad's back, he's going to go meet him for the first time and kill him. His dad's not the person who he's saying he is. What's that going to do to this guy? Is he going to find that out? Is Rose then going to lead this team of Terror Titans against him? What happens when these people find out? Is Rose going to be able to use that? What happens when Rose finds out what this guy did to them?
Ooh.
How is Rose going to manipulate the situation using that? I'm seeing a whole twist here that's coming up.
I kind of saw some of that, but I didn't really think all of them were being lied to.
Oh, yeah, because he would be the only exception, and why would he be the exception?
It makes sense. Yeah, it's now making more sense. I see what you're saying, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, this sets them all up to change allegiances when she says to them, hey, wait a minute, this guy's playing you for a fool.
And she's the only true legacy there. Now, If we find out she's not a true legacy, I think I'd be a little upset.
Well, I don't think we're going to find that out, but I think what she's got is an independence they don't have because of the fact that she's actually the real deal.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about a legacy villain in the sense that she's got her own identity.
Right.
She's been through all that nonsense.
Yeah,
she knows
fought
who she
this.
is.
She's been under mind control and
right.
all that stuff. She's dealt with the fact that who her father is, and she's
can
not
help them
her
through
father.
this.
Right. So yeah, this is adding a whole nother coolness to this story.
Yeah.
For me, thank you.
So no, I think he's totally.
No, I agree with you, dude. He's a manipulator. It fits who he is. It fits why he would do it. So yeah,
he's telling him now to kill somebody who's potentially innocent.
Oh no, he's telling him to kill the Dreadbolt. So he's telling him to kill a villain.
No, he's telling him to kill your father, Bolt.
Right.
Kill him. When he's saying Bolt here, he's telling him.
Yeah,
I don't think his father was ever this Dreadbolt. He's just telling him to kill the guy. Why does this? None of these kids. You're missing the point. None of these kids are legacies.
No. I agree with you. None of these kids. I'm agreeing, but I think he's telling him to kill Dreadbolt.
He's telling him to kill his father.
But
Why does that have to be Dreadbolt?
But it's...
Why can't it just be Joe Schmo when he's going to say to him, this is your dad? Maybe it's his real dad. Maybe he's having him kill his real father, who maybe ever was Dreadbolt.
It could be. But I don't know. I see it as he's going to have him kill Dreadbolt.
Who is Dreadbolt?
A villain.
Is there such a thing?
I thought so.
All right.
I assumed there was. I didn't do my research, so I don't know for a fact.
Well, now here's an interesting thing. It is. I take it back. I stand corrected. Larry Boletinsky is the original Dreadbolt, and it looks like this is Terry Boletinsky. So let me check now the rest of them. Are they all legacy? Now, see, from reading the Wikipedia article, it looks like he is the son of the original Dreadbolt. I don't know. Part of me has a feeling that... See, remember, that's Wikipedia, too, which means they're going off of what has been said in here.
Right, so it could be... And it could, later on, we reveal that it is all fake. It's not fake. I don't know.
See, I'm reading this right now, and I'm going to stick with this right now. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll be fine. I'll be happy to accept that. I'm still reading this right now. I don't care what Wikipedia says, as they're being messed with by Clockwork King.
And it would make perfect sense to me. I wouldn't argue that, or I wouldn't have a thing. But
there is a Dreadbolt 1, so that goes on your theory that he is going after the original Dreadbolt.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So we'll see
throughout the rest of this series, because it's... this is definitely going to get completely played out in the series. So it's a nice little part of the story. And if he's faking them, if he's lying to them, that would be a great hook for Rose. If they are actually legitimate legacies, that would also still be a great hook for Rose, because she has fought the legacy. She has fought who her father is. She's become her own person. They can become their own person. Will they? Won't they? We don't know. That is we're gonna play out in this this series. So
here's what sets me into thinking it. When we look at the Persuader, this is what she says. He told me I'm supposedly an ascendant of the original Persuader from 1,000 years in the future, which is where my atomic axe comes from. If that makes any sense, like he could even know that right. So I'm sitting here. I'm like, well, and then you go through the same discussion comes in from the Disruptor. Clock King says he found me because my dad's the original Disruptor, not that I ever knew him or anything. Like, none of these kids have ever had any relationship with any of these people, so he could tell them anything.
And he may be, or these may actually be the descendants.
Yeah, I don't know. And I could see that.
We're going to see that.
Looking at Wikipedia, I'm not sure. Especially seeing that there was an original Disruptor, except I don't remember Terry's name, his last name ever being revealed.
No, I don't remember.
It was always either. Terry, right? So I'm wondering if Wikipedia is putting the last name on there because he's the son?
Yeah.
I don't know. I might be wrong, though. I don't know. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with issue 2 of this.
Yeah, we'll see that. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out shortly, because, issue 2 is coming out soon.
That tells you how into this I was, though. That I was. Really,
you start thinking and looking deeper, and
And speculation. Speculation. Half the fun of it is not whether you're right or wrong. It's the process of actually thinking beyond the page. And that's what it is. And that's half the fun of our debates. Like, when we go through it, I don't care if I'm right or if you're right or what have you, because half the fun is a lot of times where you throw out some Nostradamus-like thing that makes no sense to me at all when I hear you say it, but then it becomes true. And then it's fun to talk about that after the fact. Because I'll call you up on the phone and be like, dude, how? But, I mean, that's half the fun of this. So it's interesting. So, I don't know. Anyway, let's keep going on.
Yeah. And, the issue basically wraps up with, for me, some of the fundamental arguments that Rose is there to take down the Titans, and she's not the villain. We see her in the arena with Fever, duking it out. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fight sequence. It was a 2-page spread. Her doing the super kick right to the face. You got the fire from Fever burning around. You got the roar of the crowd. I was just like, this is another one of those poster-worthy moments that they could take this, slap it on a poster, and I'd buy it.
See, this is why I love Joe Bennett
art. Beautiful art.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, and you got the look on her face as she's doing it.
Can you see how this artwork just works in the Hawkman series?
Yeah.
I mean,
I ate it up. And we get the fake Caesar giving her the thumbs down, but she doesn't go with the kill. And she plays it off as if, I'm not your puppet. I'm not going to do what you want. I'm not going to make you dance.
Which she said from the beginning, right?
Right. So it feeds off of that, but it's also, she's not a killer anymore. She's not going to take this defenseless person.
That's her cover for it.
Right. it's, for me, this right here was a sign that Rose isn't the killer, because Fever is defenseless. Fever's been under the mind control, brainwashing. She isn't really able to defend herself that well, or even, she's not a bad person, so Rose isn't going to kill her. And I love that, because I was like, yes, here's the final evidence, but she still covers herself.
Wait a minute. What did he give her? Did he do something to her to cut down her precognition?
No.
Because she said, I didn't see that coming.
Remember,
well, that's because hers is different than his.
Right.
But wasn't the adrenaline supposed to enhance that for her?
Only a temporary fix. It's my opinion. It was only a temporary
fix. Temporary is temporary.
Well,
just took it.
I don't know. I would think it's not a... you figure adrenaline and whatnot burns out of your system relatively quickly.
Right.
And her power is based on offensive maneuvers against her, not overall precog.
Right.
And maybe, who knows, in that injection, maybe there was something a little extra.
In the original Terror Titan story in Titans, the two of them were really playing off each other as similar. Well,
and that was the thing when he gave her in the injection. I think that's a temporary fix. It expands her power base to be more like his, where she sees everything in the future, not just directed at her, but that has worn off. And we're talking...
He's obviously doing this to show her that...
he's in control. And it was just a beautiful sequence, because as she's confronting him off camera, you hear, blam!
And the look on her face.
Yeah,
and the look on her face actually is a compelling argument for what you're saying.
Yeah,
because
pure shock and horror. Right? And it was just a nice scene when she turns and sees them dragging the dead body. You got the blood stain streaking, from her head. Obviously she's dead now. Fever's dead, and dragging the body with that blood stain in the ground. And I was just like, and she's like, I didn't see that coming. He goes, funny, I did. It was that little just edge on his part saying, I am more powerful than you. Don't mess with me. Because you remember, his whole thing is based on fear. And even like his early discussion he had with Dreadbolt, when he's telling Dreadbolt, hey, you're the leader of this team. I see so much potential in you, but if you fail me, there will be consequences. You will regret it. So he's even instilling the fear in his leader, so he's got to instill the fear in Rose.
I agree.
So it's a nice power play on his part.
That's a compelling argument. Yeah. I really like this. This is really good. I'm curious to see I'm curious to see what's really going on with the Terror Titans. If maybe I read too much into it, or if that's really what's going on.
Either way, I'd be happy.
Oh, I would too.
So
I would too. It's interesting. I just like speculating about it. It's a fun series. I am loving the Titans now in a way that I did when Jeff Johns was first writing it. That whole... No, not when he's first writing. His entire run was great. This has got that level of excitement again. So, because this has been a cool book.
Yeah. And this is fed right off of the Teen Titans. It's, it's a nice flow through, a nice little add-on. If you didn't pick this thing up and you're loving Titans, I suggest you pick it up, because it's that same type of teen dynamics, but it's the villain side of it. Right. So it's the flip side.
I would say, though, right now, if you dropped this, like if the future arc didn't grab you, I would say please pick this book up again, because, and I'm talking about not just Terror Titans, but Teen Titans in general. I think it's a fantastic series that has really started to kick up in McKeever's second arc.
Yeah.
That was really where I think he started to get an idea of what he wanted to do and get some steam and get a little bit more comfortable with playing with the Titans. So, good stuff.
Very good stuff.
All right, dude, you know what? I can't hesitate to talk about Unknown Soldier.
I know, dude.
I know you really wanted to talk about this, and I was like, well, should we talk about it now? This was a book that I picked up mainly because I really enjoyed the original Unknown Soldier. I remember as a kid growing up, one of my buddies, I talk about Jim Bradick, my buddy, all the time. He was my one that collected war comics. And so a lot of my exposure to Sergeant Rock, Unknown Soldier, Jonah Hex, characters like that all came from him because he was collecting those things. So when I saw a new Unknown Soldier series and it was going to be a Vertigo one, I'm like, all right, I'm going to check it out. Let me see what they're going to do with it right now. It takes place in Uganda, and it's this wonderful series. We follow this character Moses, who is a doctor, and he's got this story to him that doesn't really start to surface until towards the end of the book, where you start to realize there's more to this character than we ever could have realized before. This was one, Jim, what led you to pick this one up?
Well, actually, and when I read like a little blip on what it was about with the the doctor in Africa, and there are multiple plights in Africa that just I know would make some amazing stories, especially if the persons over there go into that, they delve into it. They give us an accurate portrayal of it. I think as people, we get a lot of the buzzwords, the internet headlines and whatnot, but we don't really see in depth what the people over there are facing. We'll see a couple pictures of maybe some hungry kids. We'll hear a little bit about the AIDS epidemic over there, but usually it's something that you can move on really quickly. But for me, a comic book is more tangible. It's in your hands. You're holding it. You're reading it. And how many times do we talk about that we go back and we reread a story or we think about it? So for me, I knew this could be a very powerful piece just because it has that, rereadability factor. So I'm going to keep going back and looking at the what they're going on about. And just that whole premise behind it, I thought, man, that'd be a kind of a neat concept. And then once I read it, I was like, man, this guy is going into it. He knows what he's doing. And I was just like, hoorah. Because, and I even liked in the back of the book how he acknowledges that, it's unfortunate how much, it's regrettable that he's focused on such the negative aspect of Uganda and that it's not really a hell on earth, but, there is this strife going on and there is this, just nature of the country itself, and it's like, and I think we're going to get a nice balance of the beautiful as well as the barbaric. That we see this great humanitarian, going into and becoming, encompassed with the death and destruction, and it's a nice duality of nature of man and what this guy becomes, where he's going to go, how far is he going to go, can he come back from it, kind of thing. And it's a lot of just the human nature, just to delve into that and whatnot. So I was definitely excited just on the concept behind it. Then when I read it, I was like, oh, this is a cool story, and I liked the visual behind it. So I was like, oh, this is in this top of my stack. Next one comes out, I'm jumping on it. So.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a monthly read for me. I agree. This is one I couldn't see myself waiting for the trade. One of the things I really like about Moses, he's faced with, and I mean, we're spoilers, so I mean, might as well, I'll put this in the show notes. We're going to talk about this. When Moses is basically, he sees the death of someone in his village, it makes him snap. He's seen too much killing, too much death. And I shouldn't say death. I don't know that kid. I don't know how that kid could still be alive. A child comes back with a severe head wound, and he just is had enough of the violence around him. So he goes after the perpetrators of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't just the violence against the little kid. It was what he knew what the people were doing to that little girl. When that kid said, "They have my sister," he knew right away what they were doing to her. And I think it was the combination of seeing the innocent child bashed and then, the knowledge of what was probably happening to the little girl is what caused him to snap.
And where I'm going with this is, I think it goes even beyond that. This guy has been entrenched in all of this. He's seen all of this, going on around him, and this was kind of the last straw.
Yeah.
This child comes back, he's telling his story, he's heading off after the sister and everything like that, and what happens, even the soldier that follows him gets gunned down, and he's left with a decision right now: am I going to die here? Or am I going to rebel against it? Am I going to start becoming an agent of change? And unfortunately, he snaps to the point where he has to kill basically a kid.
Yeah, that's one of the more, I want to say, nastier things about the violence and the warfare over there, that it's not like grown men killing grown men. It's little children, who should be innocent kids, who should be playing ball and having fun and just enjoying life and enjoying happiness, put in this nasty situation where they have to do nasty things. Right. And it's the death of the childlike innocence, and that's one of the biggest things about over there that just always gets to me. And and even my comments here are even not going in depth enough to what is actually going on over there. There's even more to this than what I can relate in simple words. This is one of those things where pictures are worth 1,000 words. It's just, you see that.
And see, to me, one of the cool things about this storyline is, we talk about how much we love multi-layered storytelling, and this is a great example of that, because you've got this guy who's, in our comics, you typically have that hoorah moment where somebody snaps and you're like, yeah, he's going to go get the bad guys and all that. What happens is, though, the bad guys turn out to be kids in this case. A teenager is what the kid looked like to me, and then a really young kid. And he's basically forced to make the choice if the kid lives and dies or he does. And not just him, he has to think about the little girl as well. So a lot of that, you say, well, geez, why would he kill a kid to do that? He had no choice. In that case, it was either the kid or the little girl. And so he had to make that call. When he pulls the gun on the other kid, though, this really added to me the depth and the drama of what the guilt this guy's going to feel and what this guy's going through and what leads him to scar himself so horribly. When he tells the kid to drop his weapon, here's what the kid tells him. He made me. They killed my family. He made me. They killed the kid's family. So not even just that kid I'm thinking about. Here's what would be running through my head in that situation. That teenage boy that I just gunned down, what did they do to him to make him like this? And you talked about innocence lost and all that. These kids were, blackmailed, brainwashed, whatever you want to call it. But, who knows if that kid's family was killed? But at this point, he has to man up, he has to toughen up and make sure that kid gets the girl back to the village, then make a decision, what do I do with myself? What do I do with myself at this point? Do I end it all? Which is the coward's way out in this particular case, because he's looking at the situation. He's like, how do I face people? How do I be an agent of change? How do I, there's rebels, corrupt leaders, arms dealers, corporate CEOs, anyone who profits from misery. What do I do at that point? Do I make a stand against them, or do I take the fact that I've got this overwhelming guilt inside me now for what I've done? I've seen these horrors. Can I stand up to them? And he makes this decision to really, it's a voice in his head that causes him to basically scar himself. And I think there's more to his story, though, Jim. I think there's things we don't know about this character yet. We're going to find out about his background that I think are going to be kind of unique and interesting. Because it looks like we see that montage with him where we see that this guy was some form of soldier or warrior at some point. Is that what you got out of that? That's
kind of how I took it as well. He's got some experience in fighting. It's not, just a doctor who this is the first time he's picking up a weapon. He's had some type of experience that, has led him there. And it's one of the things I really, you see the massive change in this guy, because in the beginning of the book, he's sitting there addressing the people saying, hey, we have to change. And his big mindset was, Africans must change Africa, and they must do it without violence. So now he goes from this pure pacifist doctor humanitarian to this soldier, to this killer. And I think that, the change isn't even, it's been happened, but I still think there's still going to be some conflict. There's still going to be some dealings with that. And then in the end, will he be able to change back? Will he try to change back? What will happen to his wife? Will she continue on the peaceful? Will he have any type of connection there still with her?
Or will she know it's him? Because my opinion is right now, I think we're going to see this guy go deep underground where nobody's going to know who he really is. She might uncover it, but is he going to acknowledge it? And I guess, did you read that his past was he was some form of mercenary or something like that? Because that's kind of how I took it, that this Moses guy was, something in the past, that agent of violence in the past, and then he became a pacifist as a reaction, because he looks much younger in those sequences.
Yeah, I definitely took it. He had some type of violent past. There's something else in him that was the catalyst, if you will, for him to realize that the violence isn't the answer. It's somewhere along the lines he got in his mindset that violence begets violence, and he stopped what he was doing before. I don't know what he was doing or how he was doing it or even for how long, but he has a violent point in his past, and I think that's something we're going to see later come out.
He's an interesting character. It really is interesting to see that this man has this strange past to him, but that he fought against it to become a pacifist, and now it's almost like that strange past is bleeding over into his life again. And what is that going to look like? I'm really interested. And I like how basically the scarring is explained as him trying to cleanse himself, basically erasing his identity for all extensive purposes to maybe walk down a new path? I don't know.
Well, I took it the scarring is to sever his connection to his wife and his family.
But he says, cleanse the filth and sin from my goddamn soul through pain.
Well, I'm thinking the sin and pain of his recent killing. And so now it's,
that's what I'm saying, that he's trying to erase that. He's trying to erase that part of himself. Because that's what he's doing. I mean, he's really just like digging it out of himself almost.
Yeah, and he's no longer Moses. He's no longer, himself now. And it's basically, we're going to see, my guess is there'll probably be some news bit or something like that where they announce that this guy's dead. They'll assume he's dead because when he goes out and doesn't come back to the bush, come back from the bush, they'll assume he was dead.
Yeah, because the next issue caption I really like is it says, now that the daunting task of capturing the feel and politics of Uganda is behind us, we can get some traction on the first story arc. Moses wakes up to find himself in the care of a Catholic missionary and stuck in the middle of a war zone. So it's interesting that this is really the prologue. And that's kind of why I really just felt like we should just go ahead and spoil this, because I think it's one of those that people miss it. The interesting part is seeing how we get this picture of Uganda and leads into this man and how he's changed and in many ways internally and externally scarred by the experience.
Yeah.
And moved in certain ways by it. So I'm very intrigued by the whole thing. If they can keep up the momentum from the first issue throughout this is going to be one of those series that I think is going to be one of those sleeper hits that's going to just kind of start blowing people away.
Yeah, I got to agree with that one. I got to agree with that assessment.
Now, Jim, Superman, new Krypton, dude. Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. I talked about how much I was enjoying reading the Kirby stuff and all that. This is straight out of the Kirby stuff. They've modernized it. They've got Jimmy now taking advice from Clark on how to follow some of the stuff that we saw in the James Robinson story with Atlas, where Superman was being monitored and watched and things like that. And it was really funny how Clark was just giving him advice about saying, hey, if you really got to explore this, if you really want to report on this story, you need to make a stand and take some time off and go and follow this path and do this thing that you need to do. And I love the fact that Clark, is kind of the bumbling reporter type of character, that type of thing. Jimmy knows that there's more to Clark in the sense that he knows Clark's a straight shooter. He's a good reporter. He's the guy that you're going to go to that's going to listen to you and really try to give you an honest take on what you should do. And Clark does. And it's one of the things that I really like about Superman is that Superman is this this powerful character, this big beacon of light for everybody, but he also knows that he needs to be able to connect with people on that one-on-one level. We saw him do it in Supergirl with Supergirl. We're seeing him do it here with Jimmy to the point where there are people that understand who Clark is and get value in him besides just Lois, who knows the duality of the character. And I really loved the moments of the two of them together.
Yeah, I tell you, I picked up the Jimmy Olsen thing solely because I heard it was going to be a lead-in to the new Krypton story. I really had no interest. I've bashed Olsen before, and then the countdown kind of like got me off the Jimmy Olsen must die bandwagon. I'm like, okay, Olsen can be a pretty cool character, but I wasn't too excited to see an Olsen series until I saw, okay, somehow connection. Sure, I'll pick it up. I really dig Jimmy Olsen in this. I like seeing him knuckle up and man up and actually not be that bumbling kid who's following Clark around and following Superman around like a lovesick puppy. He is actually becoming a reporter. There's the the underlining birth of a reporter in there, and I like seeing that in Olsen. I like seeing, okay, yeah, there's more to this kid than just some idiot who has every job that every comic book fan would love to have, and he blows it. I'm like, dude, come on. You're the Daily Planet. You're friends with Superman. Why aren't you using that for something more than just being just the photographer or the coffee jockey? Well, now we're seeing he's starting to become more than that. He's trying to say, you know what, I'm a reporter. And that's something he needs to do because, you have to have that strength. You have to have that strength of character to be a good reporter. You need to have that, assertiveness. And Perry knows that. And as long as Jimmy lets Perry just, boss him around, get coffee, he's never going to get anything else. But the fact that Olsen's now starting to stand up and say, hey, I need this time off. Hey, I'm pursuing my own story type of stuff. There is going to be, I'm hoping, a little bit more growth out of Olsen, especially going through this whole new Krypton story arc.
I like the concept that he's doing this out of friendship, too, though. He sees a potential threat to his friends. His gut instinct is telling him that this is something that could be a danger to Superman. He doesn't know what. He's going off his gut, which a good reporter does. And we're seeing him follow through on this. When he meets with Dr. Stone about Codename Assassin, and, he's getting information, closer to closer about the background of this guy, what happens? Right in front of him. Stone's blasted through the head.
Yeah.
I love the adventures. Yeah, but the adventure story aspect of this is great because Olsen, like a survivor, which is what he is at this point. He's been through a lot. He shoots out of the room. He's trying to escape. And you see this guy burst through the window for the first time, this codename assassin who's got like this Deathstroke kind of look about him. His whole story is incredibly interesting as well. I love the fact that when he bursts through the room, we see him, Olsen's already in the elevator at this point. This guy's not stopping, though. He has got to take this guy out because he doesn't want the information about him getting out, to the point where he's willing to jump down an elevator shaft, guns a-blazing, to try and take out Jimmy.
It definitely had that, kind of Matrix chase scene with, the agents chasing, or a Terminator chase scene type. It's that bob and weave scrambling. It wasn't some simple, okay, I had to, do this, boom, I'm free. No, there was some little bit more on Olsen's part to get away, and I like that. You got to believe that it's not going to be something as simple. You have this superhuman assassin coming after you. You better be on your A game or get lucky.
Did you ever see the movie Run, Lola, Run?
Yes, I saw Run, Lola, Run, yes.
Okay. This has the intensity of Run, Lola, Run, this issue. Yeah. It really was one of those where, for me, anybody who's seen that movie, I think you'll agree that this is one of those that just keeps moving on and on and on. I love the fact that this guy starts out with very much this like super soldier thing going on with him, but then it goes horribly wrong. He becomes like this mercenary that goes underground and becomes an assassin, which nobody could have expected. And then we learn about the clones and the Newsboy Legion, and that really these kids that he hung out with were clones of the original team. And how what he thought was right about these guys turns out to be horribly wrong. But then learns from Double X that it goes much further than that. It wasn't just the Newsboy Legion, but it all started out with the Guardian. And that the Guardian that he knew and hung out with was actually a clone of the original. And these clones were supposed to die in this short period of time, but that this one managed to, be like, he's kind of like the alpha clone or whatever you want to call it, like the clone that managed to stick around still after all this time. And he learned the horrible truth about what happened. Imagine that, Jim, waking up one day and finding out you were a clone. That everything you knew, you had all the memories, you thought you were the original guy, you thought you were the one, but then to find out that it was all a lie and that you were actually a clone of somebody else.
See, that's something I'd never have to worry about, because do you honestly think anybody would look at me and say, hey, that's a good thing to make a copy of? Yeah! So I know I have to be the original, because there's no way in hell anybody would say, oh yeah, let's make another Sensei out there.
Well, Jim agrees with you. And this one likes the corner better than you do. But it would be, to me, when I was reading this, I was just like, wow, what a thing to go through to realize that you were the one. And that basically that the guy gunned him down. So, the intention was that the guy was going to die. It's just such a horrible, crazy story. But then I love that Jimmy is talking with him, and out of the blue, Double X is already dead.
Yeah, I was like, holy, that was a oh my God moment when Double X said that he was dead. And I was like, what? Dude, what the? And I was just like, I literally was stymied because I'm like, they constantly keep bringing this guy back. Like, they can't get rid of him? Well, they just did. I'm like, holy crap.
And it really added a whole a drama to the whole thing I didn't expect. So we saw the death of the original Guardian, when he finds out that they're cloning this guy. And that, he's looking at a tank where, it's, wow, clones here. What are you doing? You're taking my DNA and making clones of me. I would be creeped out to look in a fishbowl and see myself. That would be something.
A little bit.
Yeah, that would be
a little bit freaky.
Yeah, that would be really, really horrible, and I could understand that. But then later on, Jimmy finds out that the Guardian they were hanging out with was a clone. Everything that he knew was wrong. And these were like these wonderful, happy adventures that he went on. And now he finds out that his past, everything that he believed is wrong, and he's still being hunted down.
Yeah.
So who does he go after, of course, but the Guardian himself? And I really, really liked that whole bit, because that's where I would go as well. If I'm going to get to somebody, I'm going to get to the Guardian. But not only does he get to the Guardian, but he gets to the classic sheriff as well, who turns out to be, another long-time hero in the DC universe. And I love that as well. It's Saunders happens to be in there as well. I like that it's one of the things that's a strength, I think, of James Robinson and Jeff Johns. And, it seems with this whole team, what they're doing is they're bringing back characters that are classics, that are DC's mythos. This is now connected with your JSAs, your All-Star Squad, all those books, because they're bringing back characters that have had that rich history in the universe. It goes back to, your Silver Age, straight on through. And it makes these concepts interesting. I love seeing Saunders on the bike when he's driving around, guns a-blazing on the motorcycle, and trying to take out these superhuman clones that are in there, only to find out that he's being overwhelmed, but knowing that he's got a backup.
It always pays to bring backup.
Oh, but he didn't bring him with him. I think he just assumed the guy was going to have his back.
Yeah.
And two men going up against these guys, and Jimmy Olsen's respect of them. What an amazing sequence. Now, why did you take it that the Guardian had, I don't know if you saw, he had a different hairstyle and mustache? Do you think he did that to hide who he is? Because he had that long blonde hair with the mustache now.
Right.
Did you take that as another way to kind of just disguise his identity and who he really is?
Yeah, basically.
In Winnebago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was a cool bit. I really enjoyed that. Then Jimmy just driving back with the intention of taking this stance. I really, really... And then I remember getting to the end, the last page, and to be continued in Superman, the new Krypton special. That was something for me that I'm like, there's going to be more, and it's next week. That is the part I think I'm enjoying the most about all this, is that we're getting weekly Superman, and it's weekly Superman that's continuing. These storylines are building on each other, even if we're shifting focus, like to the funeral in the new Krypton special, where we get to see Clark mourning his father. And this was really powerful for me because, first of all, they did a great job on shifting the art teams. We start off with Gary Frank, and you see this emotional moment. No words spoken, but everything that's being said, and how he's trying to really basically represent his father in the best way, possible. You see Jimmy Olsen coming up and, giving him a hand, and people paying respects to him, and Lana sitting there as well. And with Lois, when she was looking on, she wants to be the one to comfort Clark. But can she? No, she knows that's Lois's place now. And you see that moment where, she turns her head away and how much it's like hurting her. It's those emotional moments that really, for me, just kind of drove the whole thing when I'm like, oh, to look on and see the law, arguably Superman Clark is the love of her life. And to know that there's another woman that he is with, and that you can't encroach on that because you couldn't. That won't be something that he would allow. That to me added a lot of drama to it. But then the sequence that turned out to be a dream, that when I first saw it, I had to read the book twice before I realized it was a dream. I thought, oh wow, he understandably
Clark lost it.
Yeah. But then it dawned on me the second time through. I'm like, oh. Thank goodness, because I thought he did, and I'm like, that doesn't fit Superman at all. That was a part where it bothered me the first time through. But then realizing the whole thing was just a dream sequence, when you see the one word Clark down at the end, and it's Lois shaking him out of. And now the daydreams I have little problem with, because the man's angry, and the emotional outlet would be to imagine, what if I could just let loose? What if I could do this to Brainiac? And Lois tells him the one important line: never forget what he taught you. And dude, that to me was one of those moments we see Clark go back and reminisce. The interlac on the hat, the world's greatest dad that he made for him. Those moments, it reminded me of Smallville, that episode when John Schneider passed on. It reminded me of the original Superman movie where we saw the death of the father. Just those powerful moments where we see this man, this very human Clark, just kind of, pull into himself and the amount of care that he has for others, and that this is his dad, this is his role model, this is the guy that made him want to be the kind of man that would be accessible to everybody, the kind of man that made him a better person, the kind of man that made him the inspirational person that we all kind of look up to. You go your dun-da-da, your hoorah, that type of thing that you always do. This is where I totally get that. I am so geeking out over Superman right now because I love these moments.
Yeah, Clark is Superman because of Jonathan Kent, because of Martha Kent, and it's the Kansas farm morality that was instilled in Clark. That is the American way that's been instilled in Superman. It's that might for right, not might, not a conqueror. He's the hope, not the it's off. Yeah, I'm going through emotion. I'm like, it's a comic book, Jim. But I still, even when I think about this, man, I get choked up. I didn't want Jonathan to die. And it's not even about saying that I think it's it's not a statement of story. It's, I didn't want this cool guy to die. I didn't want my friend Clark to go through this pain. And it's, we've seen people deal with pain and deal with the death of a loved one, and how much it hurts. Add to the fact that this man now also has the weight of the world on his shoulders. He is Superman. He can't, go slip into depression and take some time off and collect himself. He knows he's going to have to be there the next crisis. He knows he's needed, and that's just the continuation of one of the things that makes this whole new Krypton story so cool, in that he has this terrible thing that's eating at him, but now he has these other major events of these Kryptonians there. So what does he do? How does he handle this? Throughout it all, he has to be Superman. He has to be Kal-El. He has to be Clark Kent. There's so many factions of this guy that he has to be, and we get that throughout all of these comics. And I'm just like, we're getting all the factions of him in these story arcs.
It was funny when you and I were talking about. I actually got an email from our listener Stephen King, who we were exchanging back and forth, and he was defending you. Which, I mean, there's been a number of them on the forum. We were talking about our leadership discussion, how you were going for tactical leader and all that. And I do, I will say in reflection, I understand that you were saying that you don't think you think Superman's a reluctant tactical leader. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. I think tactical leader is probably, and I got that same email from Steven, so thank you, dude. I appreciate the support. Mm-hmm. But my point kind of, when we got on our little discussion, it kind of got, tactical leader, I think, is your best bet, because Clark, I still will say, is reluctant to give orders out. He's even though he is the most powerful, and if it's one of those super critical crisis situations, he'll say, "Hey, I need you to do this, do that. I'll take care of that." Whereas Batman in this situation is willing to give the tactical orders immediately, and even rubs some of the heroes the wrong way because he jumps in and says, "Do this, do that, do that." We saw that in Trinity episode where he gave Hawkman some orders, and Hawkman's like, "Hey, I ain't one of your little birdies. You don't tell me what to do," kind of thing. So, that's what I mean. That tactical leader, I think, is a very good assessment of what I was trying to get at.
I think your military background is where you and I are probably going to disagree on the definition of what a leader is. And I think that's where you and I have a disagreement versus, I think your concept of a leader, you're 100% right in what you're saying, if that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I think leader is a term that has multiple definitions, and I think you and I have two very different definitions on what a leader is. I don't think a leader necessarily is someone who gives orders. And I don't look at it from the military perspective. I look at it from Clark's perspective. Clark will always step up. He has always stepped up in any situation. And when people will say, Superman, what are we going to do? Look what's going on around us. He always steps up with the answer. He always comes up with the thing to do, and it's always consistent with who he is, and it's always consistent with what the people around him, the team around him, whether it's one-on-one with somebody or it's a whole group of heroes where they're under a major crisis, he always is consistent in who he is and trying to do the right thing for those people or that person. Like we see Clark where, in Our Worlds at War, for example, where he is like your big leader. Everyone follows him into battle. He is going to find the way to go up against overwhelming odds to try and stop the conquerors from coming in. But what makes him a good leader is he also recognizes the strength of the people around him, Wonder Woman and Batman with their tactical skills. He can pull that in and use that. But at the same token, he realizes the young guns also have a strength and power and utilizes them to the maximum. And in many ways, makes them just as valuable to the cause, makes them feel just as valuable, and in a sense pushes them to be something more. So that to me is... I agree with you in the sense that he's not one to bark orders and things like that. I will never see him as someone wanting to do that, and I 100% agree with that sentiment. My view of a leader, though, and where he works for me as a leader, and it's not a contradiction of you so much as it's kind of just explaining what my concept of it is, and that's what I like about him. And what we're seeing in New Krypton right now is we're seeing a man right now who his father's just died, but he can't let himself delve into that. He's got to think about the Kryptonians and what the Kryptonians mean now that they're on Earth. He can't just sit there, or other people who don't have that strong leadership about them would kind of think only about themselves and kind of delve in at that point. Superman's the point. He's got to step up. And that's the part where I don't see him being reluctant ever, is that when he's needed, when he has to do something, whether it's for one person or thousands of people, he is going to always step up and take charge and be the one. And when I say take charge, I don't mean ordering, because I agree with you on that part. But he is the one who will take charge and be that inspirational example. And that's what I love about this whole thing. It makes me excited to read him. I'm thinking about every day right now, and it's like I said, this isn't an issue of who's right or wrong between you and me. It's more so a concept of how emotionally charged this character, who I usually say I'm not a Superman guy, is getting me to the point where I'm like on the forum, I'm like chatting with people, and I'm loving the ongoing discussion as far as what our different concepts of leaders are, because it's one of the things that I'm so invested in this guy right now, who I'm going to go as far as to say I'm probably more excited right now about Superman than I am even about Batman.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most sincere compliment between these two characters I can give the creative teams, is you got a guy right now, I'm a Batman guy, and Superman, I can't get out of my head. I think about Superman all the time right now. I love the crypto issue. I love the stuff that's going on with Jimmy Olsen. I love what's going on with Cat Grant, Lois, Lana, this whole Daily Planet bullpen, the stuff that's going on with Perry White. General Lane is back and forming like this Superman, basically not just for Superman, but for the Kryptonians in general, trying to come up with a way to put them down and out of action, which is where Codename Assassin comes into this whole thing. They're trying to torture Brainiac, or, at least, torture is one thing, but disseminate as much information as they can from Brainiac, to the point where he's willing to risk every scientist they have, if necessary, to get the information they need to take down the Kryptonians. And, get intelligence. Now, there's where you're tactical. Now, do you think Sam Lane's a good leader?
I would actually really have to see him more in action than what I've seen to say whether he's a good leader. So you hit it on the head with the military type background. You look at you have your junior officers, your lieutenants, your captains. They're leaders. Mm-hmm. Now, are they good leaders? Who knows? You got to see them in action. I've seen some really dumbass lieutenants do some really stupid things in the past, but I've also seen some really, on the ball, hard chargers who knew what they were doing, who were good leaders, who listened to their men but still were in command of their men. And, it was that whole lead by example, lead by respect type thing. Now, General Lane, when you get to like the general ranking, you get to the point where there's very few people above you in rank. So when you're linking military-wise, there's very few people that you have to say yes, sir, to. So you say, I want something done, it's done. Now, there are still good generals and bad generals. They're the kind of generals that they tell you to do something, and you do it because you want to do well for that leader. You want to, you don't want to let them down. You don't want to fail them. And there are some generals where you're like, okay, I'm only doing this because you're a general, and I don't want to, have to deal with consequences of disobeying an order.
Wait, now, what you were just describing right there, where you said you just want to do things to please them and to get that. That's Superman to me.
Right, exactly. and that's
where I'm in total agreement with you. I am your comments right now, though, where you're talking about a strong tactical leader and a weak one. I think that there are leaders who, quote unquote leaders, who are great tacticians who aren't good leaders. Meaning that if they were to lead you into battle, more than likely you would accomplish your goal. They're great. Mm-hmm. They're great tactical people. They could put people on the field, but at the end of the day, did they take their troops, their crew behind them, and somehow make them something more? Push them to be a greater thing than they were from the beginning? Not necessarily. Now, the leader that you're talking about, and I think you can look throughout history, and you're going to find a short list of people who have done this, where they can do just what you said. They can be great tacticians, and on the battlefield they're going to set the world on fire. But the ones that I think are the ones that throughout history have been key are the ones that they push you to be something more. You want to do something more. You want to push yourself beyond. You hear about people all the time when they get these fits of super strength because there's emotionally adrenaline-charged moments. These are the kind of leaders that get people to do these adrenaline-charged, amazing things where you see small groups of people beating overwhelming odds against thousands. That's to me like a strong leader. So I think you and I are in firm agreement there on that concept of leadership.
Yeah, and that's why, when we were arguing before, I'm like, we're not really arguing. We're in agreement. It's just our word choice.
Well, and I do think, though, that leadership has a very loose definition to it, in the sense that, I even tried looking up the definition of leader because the whole discussion intrigued me to no end. And it's still obviously still intriguing.
It's still,
but it so applies to all of this because we have a lot of leaders here. We have leaders and see, to me, there's leadership in candor that we haven't seen yet. And I'm afraid to see what that looks like. Because I do think either we're going to find out there is this complete and utter lack of leadership in candor, and we're going to see the chaos because of it, or we're going to see that there's more leadership there than we ever realized, and something's going to come of that. Or maybe a little bit of both, where there's going to be factions that split off. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. My personal opinion is the end result of all this is we are going to see a candor where the people realize why they have to be shrunk back down and without powers.
Yeah, I think is going to be the end result. Mm-hmm. We're going to get them back in a bottle or move to a planet with a red sun or something. We're not going to have this planet, this city of Kryptonians on Earth. It won't survive because we even see some of the initial stuff where they kill a blue whale because they're like, oh, what is this? Oh, okay, whatever. It attacked me, so I punched it and killed it. Well, that's an endangered species, and it's dealing with the frailties of humanity because, by comparison, this is a city full of gods that have just been instilled, and there's very few things that can stop them once they get full charged. And within Candor, we've seen different factions. You've seen the scientists. You've seen the military, the legions of Zod. There. We've seen, the architects and all these different styles within Candor coming together. And it's going to be curious to see who will step up as a leadership. Right now, which a cool part of the story is the fact that Supergirl's family is still alive.
Yeah. And
I love every time they brought her in. When she first sees her parents to the moment when she sees her one friend that she didn't know. Oh, wow, there is some cool moments in her usage, which really has me looking forward to her book and her dealings with Candor. So I'm wondering what the heck's going to happen there. So there's a lot of stuff on this whole new Krypton, City of Kryptonians, connection of the Superman family books that just has me going, what about this? Hey, what about this? What about that? Oh, yeah, we can have this. So, and it's, yeah.
I really like the bits with. I always talk about the Ma Kent special that Mark Andreyko wrote that tied in with Superman Returns. I think is a single one-shot story about the relationship between Martha and Clark Kent. I don't think there's a better story that's been written out there. This has some moments in it that really rival it, though, because you see the moment with Mom and Clark where they have to deal with the fact that Brainiac, is now brought back to the city, and Clark has to, he's protective of his mom. And that's what I love about him, because he's recognizing, I have to be there for my mom. My mom's hurting right now, and I need her to know that this hasn't changed me, that I am still your son. These people being here does not change the fact that you raised me. You made me into something. You inspired me into something. And then we see the great moment, which what son wouldn't in his situation? You've got all these superpowers. You saved all these people. You saved Metropolis. You saved Kandor. And who couldn't you save? Dad. You're one of the fastest people on Earth, rivaled only by the Flash. And you couldn't say you weren't fast enough. You weren't there in time. There would be guilt there. What human wouldn't feel guilt on any level? And that's the heart of Superman when he owns up to that. And when Mom says to him, you have absolutely nothing to be sorry for, Clark. Do you understand me? Nothing. Now, you go do your job right this second. It's that the shirt opening up, that moment, I just geeked out on so many levels, because I'm like, you see him reflective as he's flying back to the Arctic, but I'm like, this is what Superman's all about, the human connection. I think writers sometimes, and it's the Superman stories that I think, speaking for myself as somebody I usually consider myself to be a casual Superman fan, it's when writers understand the duality of the character and understand how to bring the Kansas farm boy in, that this is one of the most accessible characters in comics, and he is one of the best characters in comics. These are those moments where I think he's timeless. I think he's a character that in this day and age, I think we need. I think we need to see there's an infinitely good character out there that we can be, that we can relate to, that has feelings like we have, but yet makes the right choices, makes the right decisions, does the right thing, keeps on going when he doesn't want to. When he could just, at that moment I believed, I just want to stay here with Mom. I just want to stay here with Mom and make her feel better. But there's something bigger out there that he needs to be a part of. He needs to step up to this Kandor thing and see what's going on there. And wow, just when we see that beautiful shot of Kandor and you see that smile on his face as he's looking over it, it's one of those moments where I got chills. It was Zor and Allura, and seeing them together, it was just such a cool moment.
But also, hold on, the other thing for me, when he first flew in there and he meets with Zor and Allura, and they're saying what an incredible man he's turned into. Right. It was easy. I learned from my father. I love that moment. And they immediately assume he's talking Jor-El, and you see him almost correct him, saying, no, I'm talking Jonathan Kent, but he just lets it go because he knows this is not the time and place to go into that. But, yeah,
But I liked that moment where we can discuss this more later. And Zor's like, but why would we? And he's like, later, Zor. And Allura's like, why? And, he's like, Supergirl's here. And it really is the point where I like the fact that Clark wants to correct them because he's realizing he needs to teach them the values of humanity, the values of who these people are. They don't have the powers that these guys do, but there is something intrinsically valuable to them. His father, Jor-El, saw it. And his father, obviously his father on Earth, Jonathan, and his mother on Earth have taught him, just from their example and from living with them and growing with them, the value of their emotional spirit and the value of their strength of character and conviction and what that brings to the table. And he needs to spread that. That is something that he wants them to see, to understand, because he wants them to be a part of it, not to be he wants to basically give them the experience that he had.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he's not going to be able to.
No.
We know that for a fact because you just think about it. Clark got that by growing up. And, your most informative years are when you're a child. That's when you learn a lot of you become the man you're going to become based on your experiences as a child. And it's very difficult to take what you learned. If as a kid you were taught bad things and just taught that there's just a darkness was normal, it would be hard to go into the light. Same thing with the Kryptonians. They were raised Kryptonian. They weren't raised human. So it's going to be very hard for them to learn of the humanity, what is our, the strength of the human spirit. And that's going to be something interesting to see how they finally learn it. Because, they're going to have to learn that final lesson of, the compassion, the humanity, the whatnot that makes us who we are.
I was waiting for it.
Come on, you knew it had to come.
You know what I really liked? The moments with Lois and Lucy.
Yeah.
Where, they have this confrontation, and do you think Lucy knows that he's alive?
I think so.
Okay.
I think Lucy's on his team.
You think this is a mind game?
What?
Like a mind game with Lois?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Lucy is working with her dad. I think that's going to be the final piece. Like, she's going to end up being like, the dad knows Lois has a close relationship with Superman. He probably doesn't know the truth, but he's going to probably send Lucy in, to feel out Lois and maybe gather more information. I think him using Lucy as like a double agent, if you will.
It's going to be interesting to see how that happens and how that all plays into the whole thing. And we finally see the Kryptonians for the first time learning to fly. And that's where I'm like, oh, this is not going to go well at all.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what Supergirl's take is on all this. Because obviously Clark, we know, is very invested into Earth and to the life of humanity. But I think this for Kara is going to be decision time with her. She's going to have to really make... I think it's going to be the hardest on her because of the fact that she's grown up Kryptonian.
And here's the thing I think. Mm-hmm. I think Kara is going to be the turning point, not Kal. I think she's going to be the one... we said somewhere down the line the Kryptonians are going to get it. The city of Kandor, they're going to understand. It's going to be something that Kara does, I think, is going to be the catalyst for the change. Not something Kal does. Because I think they're going to look at Kal and they're going to say that, Kal, you've lived too long among them. You've been infected by them. And it'll be Kara saying, no, you don't understand these people. And you don't understand their strength. And I think it's going to be her because she grew up on Krypton. She grew up Kryptonian and learned the ways of humanity.
And can objectively look at both worlds?
Yeah, I think that's going to end up being the catalyst. I think Clark, of course, will be Clark, and he'll have a part in it. But she'll be the final piece. She'll be the final decision. And I'm guessing something with her friend that they introduced, that Thara Akvar, or however you pronounce it, and her parents. I think the fact that she's got those personal connections seated strongly within Kandor is going to be the turning point.
I wasn't thinking of it that way at first, but yeah, it would make sense too, because I'd really like to see her step up. I've liked her grow. I mean, I'm really Kara happy at the moment, especially with the most recent Supergirl issue. I'm like really excited to see more with her, follow her development and growth, and just kind of see the strength of character that she's developed over this time and the unique nature of her. Jim, are you against more whale killings?
I am against more whale killings because, in the distant future when, the alien space probe comes to Earth, we need the whales to signal to them so they don't attack the planet.
You're right.
And, of course, I had to pull in a Star Trek reference. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, that's a Star Trek reference.
Yeah. Well, if that is the one that they were bringing to the future...
Exactly.
They've doomed humanity.
Yeah, so we gotta protect our whales, people. Now, granted, we'll all be dead by the time the aliens come to the planet, so
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but I do think of the future. So I do think of the future generations of whatnots out there. So let's keep the whales alive, man.
Would you have felt better about this if perhaps at the end of the issue it said no whales were actually harmed in the making of this comic?
Yeah, I would have felt better about that, but you know what? Sometimes you got to break an egg if you're going to make an omelet. So that's the learning experience.
So much for the future whatnots. What about that double page of the Kryptonians flying, dude?
Yeah.
Just seeing them and their varied costumes, and because I've been very used to seeing. It's been a while since like Silver Age, where you got to see various versions of Kryptonian wear, but it really has homages to the film versions, homages to the Silver Age, homages to current storytelling. Just various different outfits and outlooks for and looks for Kryptonians were represented here, and I really liked that.
I kind of took it that the different factions had different garb, different style of dress they would wear. Like the scientists will go one way, maybe the religious, the military, the architects, the various people, and and all that will have a different style and a look to them.
I like the bit with Cal. Don't worry, you heard my father. It'll be fine. And I like as they're walking away, it's them walking away with a big giant dead whale on the windowsill. It's kind of like that's like the exclamation point of the whole thing. Like, yeah sure. The moments with Ma Kent sitting alone was just for me with the Jonathan keys and glasses on the table. This is her husband, and his hat, his toolbox. All of his items were sitting there, and just having dinner by herself in that house, it crushed me. Because I got to be honest with you, this is one of the deaths in comics that hit me. And I'm not mad at the creative team. I don't mean it that way. It emotionally charged me, though, in the sense that I don't want this man dead. I want to find out this was a hoax. I want to see this man back again, because this is emotionally choking me up, this whole thing.
Oh, yeah. And they put it in so well. Even like, in the Superman issue, they throw in these little bits of Ma Kent by herself, and just it's just like, you talked about the Ma Kent one, that was for the movie prequel, and it just, these sequences just eat me up, and I admit I get choked up, and I did shed a tear on the Ma Kent story, and same thing like with this, because you got this going on, and you're racing in your mind about what's going to happen with the Kryptonians. Then you get to this page, and there's no words on it. There's just thing, and of course it's raining. So you got the downpour of the raining, and you just, in my head, I can hear the in an echo silent house with no noise, no nothing, and she's just quietly eating, her meal, and you just like, oh man. That'd just be terrible. You're so used to sitting there chit-chatting with somebody about nothing. You're just having a general talk with somebody. That person's now gone, and so now it's just you. And I'm just like, oh, Martha, man, I feel for you.
I gotta say, the Jimmy and Lois segment afterwards really kind of fit for me what we're seeing from Lois in Smallville right now. The current version of that, where she comes off, Lois obviously comes off as like this hard-edged reporter. It's definitely about getting the story, getting the facts. Not in the sense that she's not a compassionate person, but her passions are really driven towards that aspect of it. And she wouldn't be as accessible historically as Clark. But I love those moments where she could clearly tell Jimmy, who is somebody, she's connected with over the years and that type of thing. She looks as she's ready to walk away. What is it, Jimmy? You can talk to me. And he starts filling her in on what he did. And, it's kind of like Jimmy needs to, at this point, tell somebody. He needs to let this out. This is, the person that he was hanging out with all this years turns out to be a clone. His original is killed. All this stuff that he's finding out, everything that he knew, this codename Assassin's out there, somebody is targeting Superman. And, he's trying to determine why and what that means. And I love this moment. And they're trying to figure out who's behind this unit. And this is when it leads right to the reveal that who is General Sam Lane going to recruit? He is looking for one person. You need... We talked before about Superman, how he'll defer to Batman. He'll defer to Wonder Woman. Who is Sam Lane going to defer to when he needs scientific advice, which wouldn't be an area of his... it would be an area where he's got a lot of experience, but he needs those minds that are going to advise him so he can make the right decisions. Who's he going to go to? Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And, it's about time. Wow. It totally was not what I expected at all from this whole thing. And, oof.
Yeah, I know. Oof is right. This is the beginning of a really cool story arc, and I am so Superman happy.
But it doesn't stop there.
No.
That's the beauty of this whole thing, and it's
Well, this is just the beginning of it.
Dude, the triangle numbering begins right here because Superman 681 has the 2 on it with the triangle numbering there. This is now we're seeing it with that issue. That was number 1. This is now number 2. Jimmy's story, that whole Jimmy issue, was just a prologue to all this. Yeah. The whole thing where we got to see, and actually it was funny, I'm thinking back right now, I misspoke when I was talking about the clone because it was the opposite. It was the real man looking at his clone in there, which I definitely want to clarify that. But to see that now leading into Robinson, Geddes, the artwork, they're back again with another new Krypton story. I can't get enough of this. I mean, these are guys who are clearly having a very good time working together. We're now seeing the world reacting. The newspapers reacting. Perry's got to make the decision now as a good, strong newspaper guy. Who do I pull? I'm yanking everybody from every story they're working on. I need my best reporters. And that's where, I pulled the juicy comment at the beginning from what he tells Kat. If this isn't juicy, I don't know what it is. Whatever you're working on right now can take a back seat to this. And he's right. He is so right. Because you look at the Daily Planet's newsroom and you see this huge set of cubicles with all these people working on this. And, Lois now is talking about the Krypton delegation and, that now it's time for them to meet the people of the Earth and what is that going to look like. And, could you imagine that? Thousands and thousands of aliens on our world. I would be freaked out, dude.
Yeah, big time. You know what? As much as I trust and, respect Superman, I would be nervous of a city full of Supermen arriving on my planet because I'm like, yeah, I know Superman's a good guy, but are there any villains there? Do they have any villains? Are there any bad guys there? And if so, will Superman be able to stop them? Because Superman's only one guy. Especially, they saw that invasion of Kryptonians, those evil Kryptonians. Well, that was only a handful. We have thousands on thousands of them now. So I would be very nervous right now.
One of our it's in many ways can be one of our worst qualities is that we tend to fear things that are different.
Yeah.
And I mean it's a natural thing for humanity. I'm not saying it's right. It's not something I'm proud of saying. I would be scared. Now, I think strong humans are people that know that you have that quality where you can admit, like, okay, I have this thing about me. I need to be open-minded. I need to listen. I need to get to know. I need to get facts and understand before I make judgments. Is it okay to be a little fearful? Sure. But you got to also balance that out with a need to understand, a need to know before you make judgments. And I think that's the key. I love these kind of stories because it makes me think about how does this apply to the real world? How does this apply to our own society? How does this apply to when we think of people of different race, different countries, different everything? How does that all apply? And this story is one of those rich stories that I think is going to apply there, where we're going to see those type of things kind of unfold in this story, along with a whole bunch of other kind of things as well. And, I think it's going to be commentary on terrorism. I think it's going to be commentary. I think we're going to see a whole bunch of levels of humanity, of the Kryptonians interacting. And I'm excited to see how the writers choose to play that out because they have a lot of different choices they can go with. I think we're going to see a lot of them incorporated. I think some of them they might not go for. I'm just curious to see, okay, what direction are we going with this? Where is it going to go? And that's what's, I think, fun about this whole thing is trying to figure out where they're going to head with this story and what that's going to look like. Because we're already seeing humanity reacting to this. And with General Lane and with Luthor, they're reacting in a way that shows they're not even trying to understand they're not trying to reach the hand out and shake it and get to know these people before they make a snap judgment. And in many ways, you got to question, are Lane and Luthor in many ways going to escalate something that maybe could have been prevented? I don't know.
Right.
So, I mean, that's part of my question there. Or are they going to react to something that Kryptonians do accidentally? Are they going to, there's all kinds of different ways.
Yeah, there's so many ways this thing can play out. Because, you think about it, Luthor always has alternate motives. So is he going to just play Sam Lane, play him, just use this as an opportunity, 1, to get out of jail, 2, to get in a position of power, 3, maybe to kill Superman. Because a Kryptonian very easily could hurt, kill, and do something to somebody, and it just takes one little thing. Look what they did. Oh my God, they're all monsters. We must attack now. We have to strike now. So yeah, there's so many different ways this can play out.
Superman's reflecting about his father and doesn't have time to finish the thought because who's standing before him? And you knew this was going to come. Big double page of the Invisible Jet with the JLA and parts of the JSA really just kind of meeting up with him. It's time to talk. And I was glad to see this because these would be the representatives of Earth. These are the people that have got to say, okay, we've got people out there. You are the most powerful being on the planet. And now, how many hundreds of thousands of people do we have in there that are running around with your powers? This is something we need to talk about. What does that look like? And, oof.
And and you look at who's there. It's the people who have like the political, mindset. You have both, former checkmate heads and the current checkmate head, with Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific. Plus, you got the Guardian representative. You got the Green Lantern representative, John Stewart. You got the Amazonian representative. You got Wonder Woman. You got the people. I like that. And in the end, though, what is the one thing that gets that gets them through all this? It's Clark giving his guarantee, saying, "Hey, bottom line is Earth will be a better place, because all this happened. I promise." And it's the word of Superman. He's going to do what he has to do to make it right.
I love the attention to detail. It shows that homework's been done here. Actually, I'm not a Thanagarian at all. The end of the Hawkgirl series showed, the separation of Kendra and Shira, and, reality, Kendra's now her own person. We've seen that. And I like the fact that it was a small little tiny thing, but I really appreciate when authors, it adds something a little bit more to me. I don't get miffed when there's sometimes little mistakes and things like that. I'm like, I can kind of wrap my head around it and make it work for myself. That doesn't always bug me. But I do appreciate when a writer goes that extra yard and does put in those little tiny details. And in this particular case, that bit with Kendra, I thought it just showed you didn't need to put that in there. You could have just left it go, and just gone with the comment. But they actually did their homework in their background with these characters, and I loved it. It was really, really cool. I talked about this artwork back when the OMAC miniseries came out for Renato Guedes, and I'm probably butchering the name, and I apologize, but this is artwork that I have just been enjoying for a long time, and it really works well in a Superman book. I love the details on the city and just kind of the rich look of this particular book. I think it's really just a nice, gorgeous read. I am Superman excited at the moment. I liked Kara with her friend Thara.
Yeah, but as I said, there's going to be something more to this. This is going to be one of the catalysts, and maybe actually one of the negative things. Maybe we're going to see Supergirl versus her friend.
I think there's something already going on there, Jim. And as we continue talking about this, I'll tell you why. But okay. I think Thara's already doing something. If you take a look later on in the issue, there's, to me, what I consider a dead giveaway. We see the Kryptonians fly away, going to take a look at the world for the first time. And, the little exchange between the two. Chief of Security, I can't believe you're given such an important role. No one gave me anything. I earned it. And just the look on her face, it's really interesting. Back again to Ma Kent. And back to their youth. She's looking at pictures of their youth. And who wouldn't at that point in time? But I love that, her story isn't going to just be that. Because I was at this point, I'm like, boy, the Ma Kent story, to me, it's sad. And I'm ready for that to go somewhere else. Scrish, 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 scrish. The door opens up. There's Krypto.
I know.
Do you think Clark sent Krypto there? Do you think Krypto? Why do you think Krypto's there?
Because that's where Krypto's needed.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah, I don't think Clark told him to go there. I think Krypto, just sensed that's where the boy needed him. That's where the man needed him to be.
Just a darn good dog.
Yeah, he's a good boy. So he was needed. Ma Kent needed him. So, and that's also, kind of a thing where, the next time Clark flies into the Kent farm and sees Krypto there, he's going to pet him. Good boy. Because that's where he's needed. There's more to Krypto than we're learning. There's a spirit or something else. I don't know. And I wouldn't be surprised if years down the line we find out there's something else going on with Krypto. He's not just a dog. There's something more to him. I don't know what, and I don't know if maybe in the past they've dealt with those stories, but there's something else to this dog.
Who is Agent Liberty? Do you think Agent Liberty's codename Assassin?
No.
Okay, you think he's somebody else?
Yeah, I think it's somebody else, and I was hoping you would have an answer to that because that was my big question. I'm going, who is this guy? Well, Sean, he'll probably know.
There's some deal with him because the stare down was Superman right from the beginning. I was like, whoa, what is going on there? I don't know. I was curious to see what your thoughts were on him. I don't have like a set decision on him, but the historic moment. Now that would be as a president.
Yeah.
You want to think you want to make your mark. Can you imagine being the president that for the first time shook the hands of a Kryptonian?
Yeah, and the fact that it's the parents of the little girl that destroyed your dad.
I love the bit with the where he's like sitting here, and my people inform me Supergirl's your daughter. Yes, that's correct. Well, I guess you owe me a really big plane. But then, doing the whole joking thing. But, oh, man, when that comet comes streaming down, and you see, now, here's what got me. You see horror and shock on everybody's face, dude. But there's two people, Agent Liberty and Thera. To me, we've got catalysts here on both sides that, to me, seem to want this drama, want this engagement here. They're the only two people that aren't affected by the whole thing. I don't think that's accidental, dude. I'm go ahead.
And you know what? I didn't notice it before, and now as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh my God! I turned to the page. I'm looking at it, and it's right at the center page. And you have all the look, and no, these are the only two that are like, And you know what? I'm going to retract my previous statement. That Agent Liberty may be the assassin.
And I don't know. I'm just, that's speculation too, so I'm not even 100% sold on it. I was just throwing out kind of some of my thoughts. There's something going on here. And it's really, to me, that's interesting. I don't think the assassin is going to play a role into this regardless. So if it's not Agent Liberty, we're going to see something from the assassin. But that was my thought when I saw him. I'm like, boy, the look that he gave Superman and just that. And then what is going on with Thera, though? Where's that coming from? There's something going on here. But Doomsday, dude, that Doomsday shot at the end. There's some times where people understand how to draw Doomsday and really make him look fierce looking and ooh.
Yeah.
But here's what I love. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a nasty one, and I'm like, man. And it's funny because I'm sitting there laughing, thinking, okay, Superman was able to kill, Doomsday was able to kill Superman, but now there's more than just Superman there. This, in theory, should just be a beatdown, a Kryptonian-scale beatdown because it's going to be Superman, Supergirl, plus all the delegates there. And I think that is their point. I think the bad guys, and I think Doomsday's brought on by Lane, Luthor, possibly Thera, possibly, the agent, just to show people the sheer volume and power that these Kryptonians have. This is the monster that killed Superman. You have all these other Kryptonians pounce on him, take him down hard and fast. It's going to instill in people's minds that, holy crap, think about the power these guys now have. This is the thing that killed Superman, and they took him out without even batting an eye. That's what I think we're going to see in Action Comics. I think we're going to see just a Class A1 butt-whooping of Doomsday, and it's going to be, two punches, them hitting him hitting the floor. And it's, it's going to be the wow factor of adding to the people's fear, of the sheer power that the Kryptonians have.
Yeah, it's just, to me, considered in 2 weeks in Action Comics 871, we're going to see the resolution as that, which to me, that's going to be the longest 2 weeks ever. But
yes.
That's not it. Next week, another Adventure Comics special, The Guardian. I'm so excited to follow that guy more. Because now we've got the Clone, who I'm sure we're going to see more of the Clone and what his life is like right now. I remember when we originally talked about this, we were like, well, geez, I really want to see more of the Manhattan Guardian, the one we saw in the Seven Soldiers run. I'm retracting all of that.
I know.
This is
I got no problems, man. I got no problems. I'm happy here.
This guy is great. I want to see more of the Clone and what he's going to do. I'm excited for this whole thing. This is great. It's funny how we turned this. You and I were going to do a quick little speeding bullets on this, and we far from did that.
Oh, yeah. So much for the quick one there.
All right.
Mothman.
Our next episode is going to have, for sure, our interview with Freddie E. Williams II. We recorded about 3.5 hours with him, but there's some of that's going to be cut out, so it's probably about a 2.5 hour segment. We talk about his work on Robin, his artwork in general, just some of the things he's trying to do in his artwork, and really just have a wonderful, fun discussion about that. So that's next week. And we are also going to have some more content on there. I don't know what it is yet. Jim and I are going to record a bunch of segments, and we're going to put them together through a couple of episodes. Seven Soldiers Volume 3 is coming for sure. That is part of our next recording. So that's, I don't know if we're going to divide half of that up and put it on that episode. We'll see how it records and what the link looks like and if there's a logical breaking point. Or it'll be on the following week for sure. I planned it for next week's episode, but we have this wonderful, timely interview with Freddie E. Williams II that I want to get on immediately because it's the book that we talk about is the current issue of Robin, and I want to make sure to get that out close to when that was released. So that's on for sure for next week. We're also going to be doing a Top Bullets segment. We didn't forget about that. It was something that kind of got bumped because of other content that we were talking about. And what we're going to do is we're going to do what we did for the last one. We're going to combine 2 months. So we're going to be talking in that next recording. It'll either be next week or the week after for sure about the Top Bullets from September and October. Jim said that you can send books in from both months. So please feel free to continue participating in that. We will be getting your commentary on in that segment as well from both September and October. That's senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com. That's senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com for that Top Bullets segment. And we love hearing your thoughts on what the books are that you guys are putting at the top of your stack. And as always, Jim said that feel free to send in more than 5, less than 5. Any book that's important to you, you could be the tiebreaker between 2 books and where they wind up on the listener stack. So the more participation we get, the more accurate it is. And that's one of the things we love about that particular segment is having you guys involved. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Batman and the Outsider Special Number 1 we talked about. It's 50% off, $3.99, only $1.99 from DCBService.com. Final Crisis Superman Beyond Number 2 of 2. This is the second part and the ending of it. It's coming out alongside Final Crisis Number 7. Regular price is $4.50, 40% off, only $2.70. Our in-stock trades book of the month, as chosen by Simulated Stereo, is Doom Patrol Volume 2, Painting That Ate Paris. Written by Grant Morrison, art by Richard Case and John Nyberg, collecting issues 26 to 34 of the run of Doom Patrol by Grant Morrison. Regularly, $19.95, 47% off, only $10.57 at InStockTrades.com. So I want to thank them for supporting us with that. InStockTrades.com is your source for your collected edition needs. Thank you for supporting us, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Also want to note on that Doom Patrol volume, Jim and I, neither of us have read the Grant Morrison run. I thought I did, but I was looking back and it was actually, I thought through a CGS Book of the Month that I did, and I know they selected it at one point, but it was Animal Man that I actually read from them. So I've never read this run either. I'm actually really excited to kind of delve into this and see what it was all about, because I know it was a lot of hype and it was really enjoyed. So that's going to be a fun segment when we chat about that. Plus we get to talk to Simulated Stereo, which is going to be a fun little bonus on that as well. Anyway, thanks for your patience on the couple days delay on this week's release, but hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and we will be back in a week with, for sure, the Freddie E. Williams II interview and more content. Please keep an eye on the website and the forums to see what that content's going to be. Well, we'll see you then.
Bye.